Hey guys, Sabri Subi here, and welcome to this module of quantum growth called the Red Queen Effect. Now, the Red Queen Effect is an evolutionary hypothesis which proposes that an organism must constantly adapt and evolve and proliferate in order to survive while being pitted up against ever-evolving opposing organisms in a constantly changing environment, as well to gain a reproductive advantage. And much like in business, where you're constantly competing with other competitors in a changing economy, in a changing environment to get the advantage and to win. And fundamentally, this all starts with you, the human being that is responsible for the success of this enterprise and of this business. So in today's training, I'm going to be going over how to become like a high performance human being who is capable of just extraordinary outputs, which are just like machine-like productivity. But before we dive into the specifics of that, let's take a look at what we'll be covering. So we're going to be covering the alchemy of time, optimizing your energy, the King's Audit, buying time, weaving the fabric of time, and also the power pyramid. So first up is the alchemy of time. We all have the same 24 hours a day, right? That make up, those units of time. And, when you stop to think about maybe, some really successful people that you idolize and you think about like, oh, it just feels like unfathomable, the success that they've been able to achieve and the things that they've been able to achieve in a year or in a decade or in, whatever it is, their lifetime. And what you must understand is that we all have the same units of time. Therefore, the people that you look up to in business or in other areas of your life, like they still have the same raw materials as what you have. And what you realize it comes down to is really the use of that time and how they master that time and how they kind of create time. And typically, I find for people that really, haven't gone through some of the exercises that we're going to be going in today's training, and they don't value their time and they don't think about the grave consequences of not really maximizing their time and exactly what it is that they choose to spend their time on. And really, you want to value your time because it's all that you have. That is it at the end of the day. It is the most important non-renewable resource that you have. And, once you use this resource, that's it. You cannot get it back. It's unlike money where, if you don't make much money in a year or 2 years or 3 years, you can have years in your life where you make an enormous amount of money and catch up on those resources. And that's not the same with time, right? It doesn't work like that. It's non-renewable and it's incredibly important. And you really must understand the importance of it. However, what I found from my observation, from working with thousands of different business owners is that can be summarized in this quote by David Foster Wallace, which is bees have to move very fast in order to stay still, because that's the same way that it is that we've been conditioned by society as humans. Like everyone is like running faster and faster, but they're typically staying in the same place. Like if you think about your own life, and it's very rare that things move slower from year to year. It feels like there's more things that are requiring your attention and that are requiring your time, and you're being squeezed from all angles and you're basically moving faster and faster and typically staying in the same place or not seeing the same kind of output or the same kind of progress that you would expect to with the increase of busyness. And people are typically engrossed in their like activities, which make us feel like we're working really hard, but that don't really ultimately move the needle for the business. So, what is it that you do with your time? Like, how do you manage it? Well, let me just say that, the whole thing around time management is a myth. And like all the gurus talking about like the latest acronym for managing your time, or task management software, or some new calendar and like this special system that you can use in your calendar, like that is all trivial shit, right? You can't manage time. Like time never changes. There will always and forever be 168 hours in a week or 24 hours in a day. What you can manage are the activities that you choose to do with that time, right? Constantly having your email open, dealing with mindless shit that doesn't move the needle for your business. And before like you tell me like, oh, look, I really need to have my email open, Sabri, because that's how I run my business. And you know, it's really, what if the really important email comes in that's going to like change the fate of my business and my life, right? Just know this, 80% of email that comes in is just crap. It takes you the equivalent of 19 weeks a year just to sort through email on average, right? 80% of your to-do list is also just mindless crap. And you have to decide, what do you want to accomplish in this life? What's more important to you? And realize that what's important, you know, now, that's what you need to understand, is like, what is really important to you now? And what's important now may not be what's important 2 years time, in 2 years time from now, right? It's always changing and evolving. But most people seem to thrive on multitasking, which is really like an illusion at best, because multitasking, it doesn't work. Like, you know, these people, they're the ones that are replying to work emails while they're at their kids' soccer games, or calling the office to check in while spending time with their partner, or they've got like all these tabs open and they're trying to basically work through all of them. And there's really like another layer to this, and that's the people who can't decide what's most pressing and really kind of cut out the crap. They can't focus on anything because they're driven to do everything. And these people end up doing, you know, both work and home activities in a half-hearted way. And this results in shit outcomes, because it's like shit inputs equals shit outputs. And because they're either distracted and scattered over like 1,000 different activities at a time, that the input is just far from being pure. Or, you know, when they're with their family and when they're doing other things, they're also kind of focusing on work and they're dividing up their time and their attention. And this is typically what it looks like, right? We all have the same 24 hours in a day, 168 hours in a week. So it's all about, how do you spend that time, that energy? What is it that you choose to focus on? This is what most people's lives look like, right? They've got email, they've got people that, like, you know, they're meeting with people that don't enrich their life, or their to-do list is simply other people's priorities or obligations that they feel like they have to get to, or they're in a reactive state where their to-do list is largely based on their email inbox, right? And your email inbox is just somebody else's to-do list for you. And you're just constantly reacting to all these things that are coming your way, rather than proactively sitting down and planning those units of time that you have. Or it's like social media and or other activities that don't align with your purpose and what it is that you're trying to go, or other people's judgments of you, and email and all that kind of noise. That's the chatter, right, of everyday life, and kind of like where all your energy is being divided upon. And I call this time confetti, because it's like just taking your 24 units of time, like 24 hours in a day, and just ripping them up, right, into like just like 1,000 little pieces. And you basically just rip it up and throw it out. And that is really taking, like, say for instance, the 16 waking hours that you'd have in a day to work on things, and they rip them up into those 1,000 pieces, and they make no real progress in the entire year. Instead, like, identifying the essential and packaging it into something useful, something meaningful, something that allows them to really live a more fulfilling life and achieve the goals that they're striving for. They are trying to do all things for all people. right? And they say things like, I have to, and it's really important because of this. And they try to kind of fit it all in. They try to fit in all of that mindless minutia into those 16 waking hours that they would have in a day. And they don't really stop to think about like what it is that they're sacrificing in exchange of trying to fit all of that in. And they really react to what's most pressing, and they say yes to people and things without really thinking it through, or without really kind of thinking like, what is like the second and third order consequences from me saying yes to this? And they just compromise by saying yes to things that aren't really important. And they put things on their plate, and then they try to scramble to get all of these things done at the last moment. And at the end of the day, there's never enough hours to get it all done. And this ultimately leads them to living a life that really isn't aligned with their purpose and doesn't satisfy them, because they're just caught up in this busy chatter of just everyday life. And that's really done by kind of just taking on too much. And as they take on too much, their real work, like the stuff that really moves the money needle, it suffers and they don't get to it all. And therefore they don't ever make the progress that they want. And these are the kinds of people who are constantly, like, they feel like everything is just out of control, and they're unsure of whether or not they're working on the right things. They don't know. They're just feeling overwhelmed and in a constant state of like feeling exhausted and wondering how they can kind of catch up on this kind of, this hamster wheel of activity, really. Because this is typically, that's the energy spread. When typically this is what you want to look like. This is looking at another person. So you got the same units of time. However, this is somebody who has like a Terminator gaze locked onto their goals and just ruthlessly polices their time and their calendar and their commitments. And they only focus on what really matters and what really moves the needle for their business. And they focus on things that they choose to, right? And they don't give in to judgments of like what other people think or social pressures. And their energy is just focused on their priorities and really their purpose and in reaching their goals. And when making decisions, they're always considering the second order consequences and the trade-offs of saying yes, and really heavily weighing up and scrutinizing over what really matters and saying no to everything else, right? Not trying to squeeze everything in, just removing any and all obstacles to make execution efficient towards them going towards what their outcome is and what that goal looks like. And the net effect of this is that they live a life that really matters and they're aligned with their purpose, and they really become a master in their domain that they choose to kind of focus on. And they're able to do the best work that they possibly can. And because of that, because they're really focusing on their best work, they're making a lot of progress. And when they make a lot of progress, they are calm and they are in control and they enjoy the process and aren't always trying to chase like a high. They're very Zen-like in terms of focusing on the things that are really the main things. So if we look at kind of what that distinction between the two looks like, it's like you've all got the same units of time. The everyday person scatters that energy, right? It's not really time, it's energy when you break it down. And they're scattering themselves across all these different things. And then you have like the true master who is focusing all their energy. They can go a lot further. And, indecision about what is important and what is not important is like putting your life on hold. Like you pursue both what you want and then what you do not want, right? And the way that you do this is really like you need to just start by asking yourself, what is the most important to you? Right? And then here is the key. You want to work to create a system and really routines around that help you accomplish that. And that's really all the stuff that we've been covering in this week's training is all around finding out what is the thing that is important to you. What is it you're trying to go to? And this whole concept of like energy and dividing it up, it comes from this book by Greg McKeown called Essentialism, and it's a New York Times bestseller. It's a fantastic book. I highly recommend that you go out there and read it. You'll gain a lot from it. I gained a lot from it. But basically, what it's about is just reducing things from the meaningless chaos that is life, and that is running a business and running a high growth business. Like, there is just so much chaos, and really looking at all that chaos and just simplifying the absolute shit out of it and creating order from that chaos, where your life is just so simple and clean and everything is in order in your mind, in your workplace, in your home, and everything just becomes much more orderly. And you can then focus all of your energy into the things that really matter. And this all starts about focus, right? This is kind of everybody's focus. It's just like fragmented. There's all these kind of different lines, and they're just focusing on all these different things in their business, where this is what you want to have, which is laser focus. And it's where you basically take all of that energy and you just channel it into the things, right? Those 4% of activities that really move the money needle and really deliver 64% of the outputs. And when you do that is when your business just explodes. And some simple steps to do that is, when you're faced with a difficult choice, if you can't decide, right? If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. End of story. That's it. If this thing isn't a hell yes, this gets me to where I want to go, then it's a no. There's nothing in between. It's not like, oh, but it could be good. No, you need to be ruthless. You need to be absolutely ruthless with your time and police it like it's all that you have, because it is all that you have, right? And what I find in business is that people spend too much time doing and not enough time thinking about what they should be doing. In other words, they don't take a strategic, like 10,000 foot level view, like where they're just going up in the helicopter and looking down on their life and looking at each day and each week and each, month and each year, and have a look at like where it is that they're going to be doing the activities that really matter. They're just always operating on the ground level and on a tactical day-to-day way. And they don't really spend the time in planning out the year, in planning out the quarter, in planning out the year, in preparation of where they should be putting those building blocks and those units of time. And as discussed earlier, mental models are really like a higher order skill that enables you to add a framework to making decisions of where you spend your time. And there are many different mental models that you can apply to your life, but this in an area of kind of managing your energy and looking at where you're going to be putting those units of energy and time to get to your outcome, a fantastic mental model to apply to do that is something called inversion, right? Because another way to think about you and allocating your time is to think about it backwards, and that's using inversion. So what is it that you would need to do, right, in your day-to-day life that would ensure failure towards you achieving your goals? Like, what would you definitely need to do in order to fail? And this is a complete inverse way of looking at it, but it's also a powerful way to do it when you can't seem to gain clarity of what it is that you would need to do with those units of time. So, in order to fail towards achieving your goals, it would probably look at like, ripping up those units of time like confetti and spreading yourself thin across everything. It would mean like, checking your phone constantly, having emails open, reacting to all of those emails that come in. Not looking at units of time and thinking about where can you put them to get the most leverage, but just treating each and everything on your calendar with the equal amount of importance and letting the squeakiest wheel get the grease. And if something is not important, but it's squeaking really loud and demanding your attention, that you naturally go there to try and stop it from squeaking, and applying grease being your time and your energy. And then, you worrying about one tiny little squeaky ball bearing in a wheel rather than like the V12 engine that powers that thing. So then what you can find is, well, that might be exactly what you're doing. So instead, what you want to do is do the opposite of what that looks like. Like the opposite of distraction is focus. And the opposite of working on really important things is doing lots of important shitty things. And when you look at that in an inverse way, it's like the opposite of doing lots of little shitty tasks is working on one main thing that's really going to get me the output what I want. Right? So the thing that I would say to you is really, what does that look like, what you're doing with your time? And does that support to where you want to go? And if you can't do that, then look at the inverse of what it would look like if you were destined to fail to hit your goals. What is the inverse? What the activities that you'd be doing? And then do the inverse of those things. And basically, what it means is you're going to start policing your time, and you're going to find out if you really want to be like ruthlessly effective, you're going to have to be ruthless with your time. And there's no time for short-term things. Like there's no time for dinner with people that you don't really like, or that you won't see again, or like some distant cousin that you don't even like who's in town and you feel obligated to go and meet them. Like, you won't be doing activities just to please tedious people, or traveling to places that you have no interest in going, because these aren't the exceptions. These are your time. This is what makes up your life. And, I don't have time is just saying that it's not a priority. So when you say that you don't have time to do something that's not good for you, like all you're saying is that it's not a priority for you. And when you look at it that way, you just have a different outlook on life. Because if you just look at it like everything's equal and it's innocent and there's no harm in saying yes to this, then you just keep on making exceptions. And when you audit your time and you think like, okay, I'm going to have to travel across town, I'm going to have to make a reservation, I'm going to have to pick where I want to eat, then I'm going to have to meet this person that I never even see nor adds any value to my life, and it's a thing just because I feel obligated to do it, but there's no real value in doing that. And you think about all the time that gets allocated towards that. All of that time is detracted for what the main thing is of where it is that you want to go. And if there are things in your life that you want to be doing, but you don't feel like you have a time, then that, as I said, that doesn't exist. That's just saying that it's not a priority for you. Because if it is really important, you will make time. You will find the time to make things work that are really important to you. And really the first place that you really want to start with is by doing the King's audit. And that is auditing your time. And it's about, auditing like the 24 hours that you have in a day and getting clear on where you are investing this resource. As discussed, earlier on in the training program, multi-level mental models, when I spoke about those and spoke about like the 4% rule, and that like 4% of the inputs produce 64% of the outputs, that is like the 80-20 rule applied onto itself. Okay. And in your business, the little stuff, it kills the big stuff. And if you're not applying like the 4% rule to your overall activities, then all of these little tiny small chores, these nitpicking things in your business that are constantly just screaming for your attention, but aren't really like the important tasks that produce the revenue, are going to be occupying all of your time. And when I started to apply this to my business, this was when like my business just skyrocketed, like my sales just exploded. And to give you an example here, this is like what all of my business activities looked like. Like it was like just checking emails, writing copy, speaking with clients, having meetings, creating Facebook ads, checking all the stats, coming up with offers and promotions, and then training new staff members, creating sales funnels, sending emails, shooting videos, recruiting, running errands in the business, making webinars, creating proposals to send to clients, scheming and plotting about what the future looks like, setting up systems within the business, onboarding new clients, all of that kind of stuff, creating training, and really looking at analytics and looking at what's going on in the business. And like when I was doing all of these activities, like I thought like all of these were a really good use of my time and that they were all equal. Like you're looking at these individually and like they're all important, right? In isolation, they're all important things that need to get done in order for the business to grow and in order for it to move forward. But really, 64%, of the entire revenue in your business is created by just 4% of your activities. And, when I had to look at that in my business and go like, shit, like, well, what do those 4% of activities look like, Sabri? Like, where is all this wastage and how can you eliminate it? And this is basically what it boiled down to. Writing sales copy, coming up with offers and promotions, creating training to train people where you do it once and then you get leverage on that, creating sales funnels, shooting videos, doing webinars, and scheming and plotting. And they were really the top revenue producing activities that accounted for, 64% of all the revenue that I generated were based on these 4% of inputs. So, I couldn't stop doing those other things. Like they are not in terms of I could stop doing them, but they were still a necessary function in order to run the business, right? So, I hired a general manager and then other team leaders in my business to do all of that other stuff that did not move the money needle. And sadly, here is where most entrepreneurs and really top employees of any organization mess up. Instead of investing their time exclusively in those super high productive, like 4% of activities, too many, business owners and salespeople and really effective executives, they just get caught up in the minutia of the day-to-day, the kind of 96% of activities. And just all day long, they go from just putting out like one fire to another. And they never have the chance to invest time working in those 4% that really moves the money needle and really propels their business forward. And I've just seen that time and time again. Like you just speak to business owners and you're like, what's the number one thing that's concerning you right now? And it's typically overwhelm. Like they just feel overwhelmed with the amount of tasks that they need to get to, because they're trying to do everything. And really, like an antidote to that is using the King's Order. And there's links to these worksheets in the resources section of this module. And it allows you just to basically, first of all, do an allocation of how you're spending your time. Where does your time get spent each day, each week, right? And really looking at your workday and literally breaking down every single half an hour slot of where your time goes. And then identifying like the value of your current time. And you do that by looking at what is like the total amount of revenue that your business does, and then dividing that by the amount of hours that you work per week. And then you basically divide that by the number of hours to get what your hourly rate is. And that gives you the current value of your time. So like for you in your business, what are your top revenue producing activities? Is it creating new offers? Is it motivating your sales staff? Is it, increasing lifetime customer value of your clients? Whatever it is, you basically need to figure it out. And then once you've put together a list of these vitally important revenue producing activities, then it's time to get to work and start automating and creating systems for just about every other thing in your business. And you shouldn't be focused on boring, low value tasks, because every minute you spend putting out fires is time taken away from the areas of your business that have the most leverage and the largest potential to move the money needle in your business. And just like I did, then you want to kind of identify what those 4% of revenue producing activities are. Is it kind of creating new offers? Is it motivating the team? What is it? What does it look like for you? And really, you need to cut out everything else. And the first way to do that is just to really figure out, the value of your current time. So, as I said just before, right? Once you've figured out how much your hourly rate is by working, okay, look, I work, 80 hours a week or 40 hours a week or whatever it is for you in your individual situation, and then work out how much money that you're making, then take that money and divide it by the hours to get your hourly rate. It's as simple as that. Now, once you figure that out, how much your hourly rate is, you don't want to complete any tasks that you could hire someone to do for a lesser rate. So let's just say like that you make 3K per week and you work 40 hours, resulting in your hourly rate being $75 per hour. You can hire a cook or a cleaner for $20, $25 an hour and free up more of your time to work on your business. And then you just simply need to do it. Right, immediately, because it's not costing you $20 or 25 dollars an hour for you to clean your house or to have your meals cooked. It's costing you, $55 an hour, because it could be saving you that in terms of what your hourly rate is. That's right. If you were to do those tasks yourself, you would actually be losing $55 per hour. If not a hell of a lot more than that, because it compounds. So this is because if you can clean your house for an hour, you're not able to earn your hourly rate of $75, right? So you're essentially hiring yourself out at that $20 or $25 per hour when you could simply hire yourself at $75 per hour. And the way that you get clear is by just downloading and completing the King's Audit Worksheet to get a really visceral understanding and clear understanding of, where you should be spending your time, and just remembering, my 4% rule, and think about it really ruthlessly, and think about kind of making yourself redundant in your business and in your personal life. So you need to hire, personal assistant, operations manager, general manager, cleaners, cooks, helpers, nannies, life admin assistants, right? Customer service people that are going to be running the errands for you and replying to emails. And you want to think of all areas of your life. That includes the grocery shopping, cooking, doing the dishes, cleaning your house, cleaning your car, mowing the lawns, gardening, laundry, paying bills, checking and sorting mail, handling email and social media. You need to just ruthlessly cut out all of that shit, right? Because when you do an audit of your time and you figure out how important this thing is, working on mowing your lawns is just the most stupid and ridiculous shit that there is. It's mindless activities that you can outsource for a fraction of what you earn in your business. And, I'm not just speaking from some ivory tower. I have done this in my own life. And you want to literally just eliminate all this stuff. And, elimination is best. Don't outsource what you can eliminate, right? Then once you've eliminated stuff, things that just don't need to get done, for instance, paying bills, just set up a direct debit. Then that's it. You've eliminated the need for anybody to pay that bill. Just get it direct debited, right? Or any other areas of your life that can just be completely eliminated. Go ahead and just do that. And then, once you've eliminated all of those other things, then you want to start looking at, first of all, what is it that you can automate? But before you move to the automation, you want to look at how is it that you are spending your time right now, right? And think about exactly the time that you're spending out, other than just the cleaning and the washing. Once you've got all of that stuff eliminated and you're not doing that anymore, right? Then you're going to basically free yourself up and you're going to have more time on your hands. And typically when people do this, they forget that, again, they need to police their time and apply it to what really matters. They just find themselves with a lot more free time on their hands, and then they start doing mindless shit. They start going on their phone more, right? And the average person picks up their phones 58 times per day. This is an epidemic, right? Using smartphones. It's this we are just hooked into this constant dopamine hit like crack addicts. And those 58 times, this is how they've made up. 70% of sessions are less than 2 minutes. It's you're just getting a short little hit. Then 25% of sessions are 2 minutes to 10 minutes long, and 5% of sessions are more than 10 minutes. And this time, on average, adds up to an average of 3 hours and 15 minutes per day. On average is how much time people spend on their smartphones. Like, that is just absolute stupidity. It's lunacy. And if you look at those 3 hours and 15 minutes per day, that makes up 22 hours per week. 95 hours per month, 1,146.6 hours per year, or the equivalent to 6.8 weeks per year, 1.5 months per year. On their phone, doing mindless shit, right? What could you do with an extra 1.5 months per year? If you had 1.5 months per year extra of time, imagine applying that to the 4% of activities that move your business forward. Well, that's what we're going to be doing, because that is just mindless. And you might be thinking like, oh, that's like, just the average stats, or it's taken from teenagers or whatever it might be. Like, do this activity yourself. If you've got an iPhone or whatever phone that you're using, bring it up, type in screen time, and you will get your own report. Right? So, and then you can get a breakdown of like how much time you spend on Facebook, what you spend on YouTube, Instagram, if you've got Netflix on your phone, messages, Twitter, news, whatever it might be. So basically you just search screen time, click on that. It will give you the time, right? It will give you the day. It will give you the last 7 days. Bring that up, look at that number, extrapolate it over a week, over a month. Yeah. Then do it over the course of a year. And then do it over the course of a decade. This shit is ridiculous, I'm telling you. Checking likes on your phone and on social media is the new smoking. Now, the crazy thing is to look at like a single pickup sets up a chain reaction of habitual use. So 50% of screen time sessions start within 3 minutes of the previous one. That's how you know that people are freaking hooked into this thing. Like crack. Like, it's called the news feed for a reason, right? They're going in there to get a feed. And it is the new smoking. Like, you'll check it, and then 3 minutes later, this is a chain reaction, and you check it again. Check it again, check it again, check it again. And it's this constant like habitual cycle of cycling through. Like, you go to Facebook, then you go to Instagram, then you check your email, then you check some blog, and it's like people just like, they, before they're even conscious of it, they're just constantly sucked into this thing, right? And before that you do that, the only way that you don't get sucked into this crap is to really understand this. And this is a quote by Henry Thoreau. The cost of a thing is the amount of what I call life, which is required to be exchanged for it, immediately or in the long run. And the problem is that when people consider specific tools or like behavior in their like day-to-day digital life and checking social media, they tend to focus only on the value that each one produces. So they think like, this is enjoyable. Like, it's enjoyable for me to go on like the never-ending scroll onto Instagram and see what's going on in the world, right? They think about what is an enjoyable thing, and they think about that activity as something that just is bringing a small bit of value, but they don't think what they need to actually trade, or what has to be exchanged in a result for them to get that dopamine hit, right? And it's typically 1.5 months, a year is what you trade in order to get that small piece of dopamine hit. And I'm not saying that you need to become like some Spartan like Sherpa who just roams the deserts with no technology, right? But what I do recommend is that you try and spend some time away from your phone most days. So like, for me, it's like my phone is typically away from me on airplane mode or in a drawer or out of sight when I'm doing my most important work, right? And basically this is a practice of not about getting rid of my phone altogether, but getting rid of it most of the time. And when you do that, Like you'll have your phone with you and you'll still get to enjoy the conveniences of having it, but you don't get sucked into that vicious cycle of just constantly checking it. Because the crazy thing is that most people can't go longer than 1 hour and 43 minutes without touching their phones during the day. On average, that's the statistics. So that is without a doubt an addiction. So typically what I find works for me is scheduling that kind of low quality leisure time, that low bandwidth energy time. Because otherwise what happens is like these massive companies that are masters at really extracting like eyeball minutes, because eyeball minutes has really become the most significantly and most lucrative and important thing. Like it's more important, that currency of attention, than oil. And what you want to do is, just as you would schedule your day-to-day work time and what you're going to be spending, you want to strategize your free time as well. And if you do want to check Facebook or Instagram and all that kind of stuff, is you have to be disciplined and you have to kind of like operating procedures in place in order for you to use them. Like you must go in and out very quickly and like conduct like surgical strikes of like when you're going to use it, get in, do the stuff that you want to, and then get out before that attention trap sets in and gets its claws into you and like the doors just spring shut and then you're just stuck in this thing, this maze of just like chaos and noise and chatter of stuff that doesn't matter. And you might want to go in there to check ads or to check what your family's doing, all that stuff. Like, all of that stuff can be done in a strategized way. And when you strategize your time and how much time that you're going to be setting to doing that per week, per month, whatever that looks like for you. Okay? Now, once you've kind of eliminated all of the shit that you don't need to be doing, all the low yielding tasks around your house and your life admin and laundry and all of that kind of stuff, then, basically the next step is really automation is second best. And that means like, what are the activities that you're doing that can be automated? Okay, so whether that's like client onboarding or invoicing or setting up those direct debits or ordering food and supplies and having it so it's just automatically set up through online groceries where your stuff just comes or where somebody goes and does that for you. Or like automatically just archiving emails that aren't important and don't require anything. And then once you've kind of done that, right? Because you don't want to automate tasks that don't need to get automated. And that's why elimination is first. You just want to eradicate and eliminate everything. And then after you've eliminated that, the second best thing to do is then to automate all the things, right? And after you've automated every possible thing that you can, and you've scrutinized of it, then you want to move into something which is really my secret weapon, which is just buying time. All right. And, I spoke about it before about buying time. So first thing that you really want to do is you want to focus on the small hinges that swing the big doors. So what I mean by this is that most of your time is probably getting sucked into like food related activities right now, or cleaning your house, or household and gardening maintenance, and running like necessary errands but are unnecessary for you to be running them. And so the very first place that you want to start is by hiring a personal assistant. And then you want to get that all done, and that will take up a lot of life admin tasks. Then you also want to set up a system or somebody that is going to basically do your groceries, right? And then you want to outsource the cooking and the food prep. And you also want to get rid of you having to clean, and you want to hire a cleaner. And if you can do those 4 things, they're the biggest wins, right? And that's really is going to just, once you do that things, it's just going to free up so much of your time. It is going to be ridiculous. And you might be thinking like, I don't have the time to do that. Well, you do. And the first place, that you want to go to is the resource section. I've given you the actual job ad descriptions for getting a personal assistant and getting a private chef. So wherever you happen to be in the world, you basically want to post these on, job sites, on community boards, all that kind of stuff online. And I'll be running you through a couple of the sites that you can use to do that later on in this training. But let me just attack the objections that you already have in your mind, because when I talk to people about this, like all of these negative belief patterns come up that they've typically been conditioned to by their parents, right? Like most people, when they grew up, they didn't have a private chef in their house or someone that's going to come and do the cleaning and all that kind of stuff. And I haven't given like a job description for a cleaner because it really varies depending on like how many rooms are in your house, either it's an apartment or a house, and how frequently that you want to get it cleaned. But that's the other thing that you absolutely must do. But when I talk to people about doing this, they think that, that people are going to judge them, because they feel somehow that they feel like they're too good to do these tasks. And like, who are you to outsource this? Or it's wasteful. If you can do it yourself, why would you waste the $20 to $25 an hour in paying somebody to do it? And that's the scarcity mindset. And you never want to take advice from somebody who's less successful than you, because they're just telling you their beliefs. Right? But how has that served them in their life? Like, do they own a thriving business? Are they at the stage that you want to be? And typically, they're not going to be. And that's the reason they're getting you this shit advice, right? So you need to get rid of that negative belief pattern. And the way that you do that is by doing the King's Order and find out how much it's costing you to clean your own house. And the convenience and the clarity that it brings you to have a really clean house. Right? Because you've got a cleaner that comes and clean it without you even having to think about it, right? And then you've got a chef that comes a few days a week and does all your meals for you, does all the grocery shopping for you, cooks them all. You don't need to worry about any of that. You get home and there's a beautifully healthy, organic cooked meal at your house. You don't need to worry about anything. You don't need to think. You rock up and it's done. Or having a personal assistant that just takes care of all of the everyday minutiae and back and forth and all the stuff that you need that are essential, that needs to get done, but you shouldn't be doing it. And this is how you just get like insane levels of output done. It's like when you just eradicate all of this stuff that you don't need to be doing. And like really once there's no kind of, I wouldn't say like if you're making $5,000 per month, you want to be doing this, or 10 grand or 20 grand or 30 grand. When you know it's right is when you have a look at what is the value of a unit of time for you. What do you get paid per hour? Everything below that, outsource that. Because I assure you, when you do, you're going to free up more time to focus on your business. And then you're going to experience just quantum growth in your business. Like it's just going to explode. And it's because you've eradicated everything else. So I don't care how uncomfortable this makes you. I don't want you to defer it. I want you to commit to running a job ad. Like you might be thinking, oh, I'm going to find someone. How am I going to trust them in my house? Just go through the process. It will work for you. And when you do, send me a note. Let me know how much it's changed your life, because it will change your life. So the first thing is like after we've basically, focused on those areas that like the small hinges that swing the big doors, that's where you're going to get most of your wins, right? That's like the 4% that's going to give you 64% of the savings. But now let's look at everything else, because once you've got those in check, you're going to be hooked to this thing and you're going to be like, oh my God, like I cannot believe that I was like scrubbing my shower and my toilet every weekend doing this shit when I could be focusing on stuff that is just going to really move my business forward. Or I can focus on doing nothing and even just enjoying that renewal time, so when I am working, I'm way more effective, whatever it chooses to be for you, right? So you've kind of eliminated all of that stuff. So you've got a PA, you've got a cleaner, and you've got a cook that does the grocery shopping and cooks all your meals. Now let's look at everything else. And what I mean by this is that most of your time is probably like getting sucked into those tasks, but then there's all the other stuff. So let me give you an example, for instance. So, I recently got a new house, and when I moved into the house, I got new carpets laid. And when I got the new carpets laid, it was like bigger, fluffier, better carpet. And what that means is that this is one of the doors in my house that like the door was rubbing against the carpet and I couldn't close the door properly. And this like annoyed me, right? So instead of me going, okay, like let me fix this, right? What I did is I posted a job on this site called Airtasker. And basically, I'll give you a bunch of different sites like this that you can use depending on where in the world that you are. But it's essentially a job that you can post on and you can just get like anything done. Like it's got freaking everything on this, right? You got accountants and bricklayers and like bathroom renovations and fencing and pet grooming and like every little thing that you do in your life. There is somebody who would love to do that in exchange for far less than what your hourly rate is, okay? So I posted a job using their app, right? Door shaved. I need to get a few millimeters shaved off the door or the bottom of this door so it closes with ease and doesn't drag on carpet. Like that's not a very thoughtful description or title of that ad, right? Door shaved. Bang. Put it in. What's your budget? $50. That's what I'm willing to pay to get it done. Right? So I posted on there, when do you want to get it done? I want to get it done on Wednesday. Any time of day? No, don't really care. Then within 15 minutes, right? Or whenever it was. Yeah, from 11:14. Sorry, I checked it a few hours later. So then, yeah, within a couple of hours, I had like a bunch of people, 2 offers on there. And typically if you leave it for 24 hours, you'll have more. Had this guy, Brendan. Hello, I'm Brendan. I'm a qualified chippy with lots of experience and all the right tools for your job. My offer includes all labor and 22% Airtasker fee. Any required materials will need to be reimbursed by yourself. Thanks. Speak soon. I can do this. And that was for $80 and then someone else saying $70, right? So you review those and go, cool. Like I'm happy with, Brendan, he's got, 747 next to those 5 stars. That's how many jobs he's completed. And he's got a 94% completion rate. As opposed to Remy, who's only had 120 jobs. Yeah, it's $10 cheaper, but the hassle of only having 84% completion, I'll just, assign this task to this person for the $80 that they want and done, right? Bang. So it's official, right? Payment's gone through. And then it goes through. He comes out on Wednesday, gets it done. And then that's a problem that I don't need to think about anymore. It's over. Right? It's done. I don't need to spend, for me to go get a drill it out. I don't have the tool, shave it. Like it's a whole day or half a day of activities where it's like, literally this took me less than 15 minutes and it's done. I don't need to think about it anymore. And they're very grateful that job is there and they could come in there and earn that money. And it only took the guy 30 minutes to get it done. So you're paying him $80. I don't care. It's way more important to get rid of that task than it is for me to do it and save $80. It would cost me thousands and thousands of dollars in order to do that task myself. So you might not have Airtasker in whatever country that you are. Another one is TaskRabbit. They're in the States. There's same concept, right? There's lots of them out there. There's Airtasker, there's Helpling, there's TaskRabbit, there's Craigslist, there's Gumtree, there's Fiverr. It doesn't matter, right? There are websites that on there before you try to create some barrier of why you can't do this and it's going to be inconvenient or you would like things done a certain way so you can't get it done. Just do it. Trust me, it's going to be insanely valuable. And instead of me, for instance, fixing that door, what I chose to do in that time was write an email to send out to my list, right? And here, this isn't the email that I wrote on that specific thing, but this is one email that I wrote that's brought in $1.2 million in revenue for my business, right? It's gotten 65,000 people to click on it. That's one email. from that I've written that's generated me $1.2 million that maybe I spent half an hour or 45 minutes writing that email, right? And then you begin to see, okay, like even if I had to pay $500 for that person to come and do that thing with my door, like, you know, that's just one email, like that's a top email at 1.2 million. But like on average, an email that I write will generate me $375,000. Is it really worth for me to be cleaning my house or cooking my meals and doing those things, right? And if you enjoy, you know, cooking a meal, you know, once a week or whatever, then definitely do it. I'm not saying you have to remove it. If you enjoy doing it, do it, but just don't do it every day, because you'd need to enjoy it to the tune of $1.2 million. And what you will find is that if you can find somebody to come and do all of the cooking during the week, you might go do an incredible cooking class for half a day on a Saturday and get all your enjoyment out of that. But don't spend your time doing this minutia every single day. And this brings us to, you know, weaving the fabric of time. So once you've eliminated it, once you've automated it, and then once you've bought time, and you've gone out there and you've basically bought all the units of time, and you're eliminating as much of the waste, and you're automating everything else, and you're hiring people, and you're really, really regimented of every single unit of time and how much it works, we're not over then. we're now we'll move on to 2 times, what I call 2 times hacking, right? Where it's basically you're leveraging your time that you do have, right? So you don't have to give up anything, but what you want to do is you want to transform the activity of what it is that you are doing, right? So say for instance, if you need to commute to the office and it takes you 20 to 30 minutes to commute to the office, you're not going to be able to eradicate that unless you want to work at home. And if you've got a team and you want to be involved in the team, that's not going to be an option, right? So that is going to be a necessary function that you're going to need to do, but it's not useful time, but it's still necessary. Like you can't automate that. There is no time travel just yet, right? So you have to do it. So what you do is you basically like 2x time hacking, where you do something while you are doing that thing that you have to do, right? Like you're listening to audiobooks, or you're having like a phone meeting with your team on that half an hour commute, and you're not waiting to get to the office and then have to have that meeting, right? And this is where, you know, you're doubling the output and activity that you'd be doing in that same unit of time, and you're hacking it, right? Because if you look at what we spoke about, like the use on average for a workday for people, like they're spending 2.5 hours, right, on leisure and sports, and then 1.1 hours on household activities, and then, you know, 1.1 hours, another 1.1 hours on eating and drinking, right? So that's typically what it looks like. So if we look at all of these different units and how they're made up, and we just take the leisure and sports, which is 2.5 hours, and then we take the household activities, which is 1.1 hours, and then we take the eating and drinking, right? Collectively, these add up to 4.7 hours per day, 32.9 hours per week, 71 days per year, or 10 weeks per month, right? And then if we compound this over a decade, you get 23 months over the course of a decade, 10 years, which is almost 2 years in that decade. Now, that is the power of 2x time hacking. It's not about eliminating any of these things. It's rather about pairing them with other activities that contribute to you reaching your goals, right? And that's what we're all about. So let's look at some of the things that you can do. So audiobooks, these things are like my weapon of choice, and it's really my secret weapon. Is I know that I'm going to need a commute, right? And I do all types of other things to eliminate the commute as much as possible. Like, you know, I'm waking up at 4 a.m., commuting in, and therefore it only takes me, you know, like 9 minutes to get to the gym, and then takes me 2 minutes to get to the office. And that's because I get up at a crazy hour and travel to save time, to make time, right? And if I would just go into work at a normal hour and get to the office at say 8 or 9, then I would probably be losing 50 to, 50 minutes to maybe an hour and a half a day just on that commute. So what I do is, even in that short commute that I've got, I listen to audiobooks. Now, an average audiobook, right? If you've got Audible or something like that, you'll see that it's about 8 hours, 8 to 13 hours, listened to on like 1 time speed. That's typical audiobook. I recommend listening to your audiobooks at 1.25 speed because it's just quicker, it sucks out a lot of the oxygen, and it's still slow enough for you to be able to absorb the information. So if you took that time, that extra time, right, and you basically had a look at, okay, I'm going to take that time of like the leisure and the cooking and all that stuff, and I was still going to continue to do those things and cooking and cleaning, but you just did 2x time hacking, basically you would be able to listen to 163 audiobooks that are 13 hours long at 1.25 speed. Now, let's say that you only spend a third of your time listening to audiobooks. That's still 53 audiobooks per year, right? Just imagine what you could learn if you read an extra 53 books per year on any topic or area in your life that you're looking to improve. Like, the effects would be profound, right? And really what I look at is I look at any dead time that I've got in my calendar in terms of things that I've got to do, commuting, blah, 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 blah. And that's when I listen to audiobooks and really making up that time and hacking my time and weaving the fabric of time in my life. Now, Warren Buffett is the CEO and chairman of Berkshire Hathaway and is the third richest man in the world. He has a net worth of like $86 billion at the time of recording this. And Buffett, he spends 6 hours per day reading newspapers and like 500 pages of corporate reports. And he's like a huge, huge fan of reading biographies, right? Third richest man in the world, spends 6 hours a day reading. And he credits many of his greatest money-making decisions and the decisions that he's made that's earned him the most amount of money to his voracious reading habit. It's incredibly important, right? And he estimates that he spends as much as 80% of his day reading. Stop and just think about that for a moment. Third richest man in the world. Like, imagine how busy this guy would be. That's what the typical person thinks. Well, he spends 80% of his time reading. So, if you can't carve out 2 hours a day to listen to audiobooks or to read, then you're doing something wrong. And his business partner, Charlie Munger, here's a quote from him. "In my whole life, I have known no wise people who didn't read all the time. None. Zero." Right, that's Warren Buffett's business partner. And Munger, he would carry around a book or a newspaper just in case that he might be delayed. And he says, like, as long as I have a book in my hand, I don't feel like I'm wasting time. So again, he knows that there's going to be dead spots throughout his day. And if he's got a book in his hand, then he's not wasting those dead spots. Like, he's filling them with learning. But it's not just billionaire Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger, his business partners, who are hugely bullish on reading, right? Bill Gates reads 50 books per year. Mark Zuckerberg reads at least 1 book every 2 weeks. Elon Musk grew up reading 2 books a day, according to his brother. Mark Cuban reads more than 3 hours every day. Arthur Blank, co-founder of Home Depot, reads 2 hours a day. Billionaire entrepreneur David Rubenstein reads 6 books a week. And Dan Gilbert, self-made billionaire and owner of Cleveland Cavaliers, reads 1 to 2 hours a day. And look, many of these leaders, despite being extremely busy, set out at least an hour a day or 5 hours a week to read, learning, and deliberate practice on their craft. So this is something that is not optional. You must start reading. And, if you think that like you can just read blogs or you can read stuff online or YouTube videos, like, think about the amount of time and effort that goes into somebody writing a blog post or putting together a YouTube video, as opposed to synthesizing their life experiences over the last 20 or 30 years into a book, right? It's incredibly important. and it has to be a part of how you operate. And you need to, you need to make time for it. You need to use 2x time hacking and weave it as a part of your life. And what this means to you is that it doesn't matter how busy that you are, that you should really develop yourself into becoming a lifelong student and a self-learner, right? And you do that through voracious reading, and you need to cultivate curiosity and strive to become a little bit wiser every single day and every single week. And instead of reaching for Instagram or online news and like YouTube, like just reach for a book and read that stuff, because it's going to serve you and it's going to compound over time. Because if you ask yourself, what was the most valuable thing that you gained from using Instagram last month? Like, what was it? And you probably struggle to name it. Where if I asked you, what was the biggest piece of knowledge you ever have gained from reading a book? Typically people can name, a dozen of them and how they profoundly impacted their life. So, becoming a voracious reader and a lifelong student is something that will serve you for the rest of your life, and I highly suggest that you do it. Now, let's look at some other activities and some other examples of where you can hack your time and other things that you do every day. So activities: exercise, walking, running, lifting weights, biking, being in the sauna. You might spend an hour a day on that. Commuting, working, whether it's like you commute to work or you go commuting to home, or you're traveling, or you're doing errands, you're probably another hour there. Cooking and eating, breakfast, lunch and dinner, snacks, all that kind of stuff. It adds up to around an hour and a half a day. Chores, cleaning, cooking, dishes, garden, garbage, groceries, all that kind of stuff. Paying bills, 1.2 hours. Falling asleep, waking up, 0.85 hours. And really that's going to add up to another 5.5 hours per day. So let's look at how we can hack that time and we can get some leverage. While you're walking and talking, right? You can basically, that's how you can hack them. And you can basically go, all right, my exercise I'm going to partner that with learning. So listening to audiobooks, or, instead of, running on the treadmill one day a week, I'll go for a walk with my partner and we'll talk and we'll, use that time to build on our relationship, whatever it might be. Like, you can combine that activity and with, all of those with exercise, learning, relationships, plus work. And you can hack that time, get more units. Your commute. Listen and learn. Listen to audiobooks when you commute, right? Or set up a call that you need to do. Gym and learn. So if you do weight training, whatever it might be, like instead of listening to music while you work out, listen to audiobooks and be feeding the body and the mind at the same time. Any chores that you're doing, if you really want to do your gardening, or if you're not at the stage where you are earning more than $20 to $25 an hour and you want to do the gardening, then put an audiobook in your ear and listen while you do that. Or whether it's like you're falling asleep, listen to an audiobook, or do some reading, or when you're waking up, make it the first thing that you do, right? Not all these things are going to apply to you. You have to pick and choose and see which one are going to fit within your lifestyle. But you definitely want to do it. And this whole concept of learning, you want to look at learning like you look at exercise. Right? You should move beyond the just becoming a lifelong student and think more deeply about what the minimum amount of learning you should do per day in order to have a sustainable and a sustainable career, and to have long-term success in your business and in your career. What is it going to take? Knowing that the Buffetts and all these guys are spending, more than 5 hours a day on some of this stuff. So the long-term effects of not learning are just as insidious as the long-term effects of not eating healthy or exercising or cultivating a healthy lifestyle. It's as serious as that. It's like if you weren't to exercise and you were just to eat, fast food, imagine what that would do to you, the long-term effects. It's the same thing with not learning and not feeding your mind the nutrients that it needs. So you want to really find the time for reading and learning, even if you are really busy and even if you are overwhelmed. That is more of a sign that you need to make time to do this. And you want to stay consistent without procrastinating or falling prey to distraction like social media and other mindless shit that you don't need to be doing that's not moving the needle for you. And really, what you need to understand is the compound interest of time. So compound interest keeps adding on itself so that you end up with thousands of times of your original investment. 10 minutes saved every day is 60 hours a year, which is 1.5 weeks of work. And that's 15 full working weeks over the next 10 years. And most people don't realize that that is time like that you will lose, but the more important thing that they don't realize is that that time spent learning on new skills and becoming a master, that time it actually compounds. And while most people focus on consuming information that won't serve them next year, let alone, in the next decade, you want to invest your time in knowledge that changes very, very slowly, or it doesn't change at all. Like the laws of persuasion, right? And human psychology. Instead of spending your time learning the latest Facebook ad strategy or learning about some platform that it's like you're using this new targeting method or retargeting, and then next year Facebook removed that. So that time that you've invested, it's not going to compound. But understanding human psychology and persuasion, or, human incentives or team building and all that kind of stuff, that's going to compound year in year. Because investing your time learning information that is timeless, this allows you to get that compounding effect of your knowledge over a long period of time. And business and life, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not here to sprint as hard as you can for 12 months and then that's it. You're going to have to pace yourself. And because you're in this for the long run, this gives you an incredibly important opportunity to really create a cumulative base of knowledge that compounds over the years as you become an entrepreneur and as you get more with it. And, typically what I found is that expiring information, this shiniest object, is typically what is the most attractive and what is the most sexy for people, but it's not real knowledge. And here are a few telltale signs that you're dealing with focusing your time and energy on expiring information that's just going to expire. It has a use by date on it and doesn't compound. First, it's typically marketed to you, and it's clickbait or news or all of that kind of stuff. And second is that it's lacking in details and nuance, and it's usually easily digestible, like this listicle that you got to read, right? This is why it's commonly telling you what happened and not why it happened or under what conditions that it might happen again. And third, it won't be relevant in a month or a year from now. And expiring information is one reason that you want to stop reading the news. It's like a false map. And more often than not, it's the time that you're investing into that is not going to compound, and it's not going to serve you a year from now. So when you're sitting down to consume some information, again, you need to police what that information is and ask yourself, is this going to be relevant next month, next year, in 10 years time? And if it's not, focus on things that are going to really serve you in the years to come, and think about the long term and the second order consequences. Because all the real benefits in life come from compound interest. And I can't stress the importance of this enough, right? It's not from the quick fixes or the silver bullets or the hacks. The real leverage that you get in life and the areas that real progress is made is from the compound interest that you get of your time. It's in mastering the essential skills and then just working at them for long periods of time. And it just keeps on folding on itself and folding on itself and really compounding. And that's really the thing that's going to help you move your business forward for years to come and not over just the next week. So really think about this and think about, an hour that you spend per day now isn't worth 7 hours per week. It is right now, but what's that worth in 10 years' time with everything that you've learned and all the waste that you've been able to cut off and all the mistakes that you've been able to avoid because you've been learning in that time? So really, really think about that concept. Now, let's talk about productivity and really getting more done with your time. Now, when most people think of this, like when you say are you very productive? Or they think about productivity, and what they do is they think about like the best time management tool or some special app or software or a calendar management system or some kind of nonsense. And all those things are what I call the 1%ers. You only get like 1% of efficiency here and then 1% there. Well, what really matters is this concept I call the power pyramid. Because I look at productivity as a 6-layered, upside down power pyramid, right? With those layers, there are, other kind of constituents that add up to them. And really what you see at the top is the thing that I have found moves the needle the most in terms of being productive and getting the best output. And that's sleep, right? Because if you're not sleeping well, then your output is just shit, right? There is a reason why like sleep deprivation is like the most effective way to torture people. It's because it drives you insane if you don't get enough of this thing. So really optimizing your sleep, from a combination of having like supplements and tracking your sleep and having a good bed and, good night routines and herbal teas and all that kind of stuff, which I'm going to break down. I'm going to break down every single element of this power pyramid in today's training so you can see exactly how to squeeze efficiency out of it. And then underneath sleep, diet. Having a clean diet, eating food that doesn't make, your cortisol level increase or doesn't like spike your insulin and make you crash and all of that kind of stuff is the thing that is like second on the power pyramid in terms of getting your output. Then exercise, in having like, whether it's in the morning or in the evening, making sure that it's rigorous, making sure that you're keeping the body healthy and oxygenating your blood and testing yourself. Then the next thing is the environment that you're working in, that you're living in, right? That you are meant to be doing your best work in. And then looking at what is it that you focus your time on, right? And like, what are the distractions that you've got? What are the operating procedures that you have in place that build moats around you so your focus is protected? And then the last thing is the tools, right? Is looking at the calendars and the computer that you use and your schedule, right? And most people, they have this calendar, they have this power pyramid, I should say, the other way around. They think the most important thing is their tools or their calendar system or the shortcuts. And they don't believe that the other stuff is nowhere near as important. And they just mindlessly obsess over these small little activities here that when you look at them on a pyramid and how much of a wedge that they make up, like it's just the tip, it's nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's like you need to look at those activities that are going to give you the best output, like everything. So let's break these down one by one. First of all, sleep optimization. So, I put sleep at the top because it's the most important element that has the highest effect on everything else that you do. It is the main node that creates the network effect. Don't believe me? Just try like not sleeping for 24 hours and see what happens to you, right? Try getting 2 hours of sleep a day and see what happens to you. And as I said, like there's a reason why it's one of the most effective torture techniques. Like lack of sleep is completely debilitating. And it's so vitally important to you in order to kind of be optimized and really operating at a high performance level and being like a high performance machine, that I really can't stress it enough. And I see stupid people brag about that they only need to get like 4 or 5 hours sleep a night. And that's just complete horseshit. And if you really take a look at their output, you'll find out very quickly that it's just subpar. Like they're not a high performance machine at all. Okay. Now, when you sleep, your body and your mind, it regenerates from the stress of the day. And, you know, everyone has stress like in their day to day and in their home life or in the demands of just every day of like managing a business, managing a family and all the stuff that comes with it. And especially if you're pushing yourself creatively or professionally or athletically, there's going to be stress, right? And the average person, they spend more than 26 years of their life sleeping. So your sleep, it affects your output. So, you know, if you get better at it, you're going to get a better output. And I'm going to share with you some of the hacks that I've found to really maximize the quality of your sleep. And the first thing that you must do is you must create an evening routine. That is a set time of day that you wake up and a set time that you go to bed every day, right? How do you unplug and turn off and rejuvenate? Because it's very, very important. And your body has what is called a circadian rhythm, which is like a natural and internal process that regulates your sleep-wake cycle and repeats roughly every 24 hours. And it's important to note that it can be modulated by external cues such as sunlight and temperature, and by signaling to your body through like a regular evening routine when your body should produce chemicals that make you sleep better. And that's why it's very important to have a set time that you not only wake up, but that you go to bed every night. Now, each person has, you know, what is called a chronotype, which is basically, you know, your behavior that is trained your own circadian rhythm. And a person's chronotype affects when you get tired and what time you wake up and when you feel your best at a particular time during that 24-hour time period. So like chronotypes, you know, you can basically look them up online. They're broken down into like 4, right? So you've got like dolphins. So according to psychologist and sleep specialist, Dr. Michael Breus, there are 4 different chronotypes, right? And a person's internal clock and their rhythm. And he labels these things as following animals. So a dolphins are light sleepers who are often diagnosed with insomnia. And this is like, you know, they wake up and exercises at 6:30 and 7:30, eat breakfast, blah, blah, blah. Lions tend to wake up early with lots of energy, but early evening they're exhausted. Bears' internal clocks track the rise and fall of the sun. They need a full 8 hours sleep a night. Wolves have a hard time waking up early and are most energetic in the evenings. You want to read this and just see where is it that you identify with yourself, like what animal are you, and see like what is it that you can do to support that type of chronotype in terms of, you know, needing, you know, the full 8, 9, whatever, however many hours you find that you're optimum. We're going to get to that in a moment. Then after you've kind of, you know, assessed which chronotype you are, what you want to do is you really want to splurge on getting a good quality bed and then a really good quality pair of shoes. You might be like, a bed and shoes? Like, what are you talking about? And the reason for that is because when you're not in one, you are in the other, right? Typically, if you're not in bed, you're going to be wearing your shoes. And I've found typically like a mattress in a box is a fantastic option. And if you have a partner, get a king bed, right? It doesn't matter. Like even if your room is small, get a king bed because again, the sleep is the most important thing. So you need to optimize this. And we spend 1/3 of our lives sleeping. So just don't fuck around, buy one. And the reason that I say a mattress in a box is, you know, typically like these beds are the equivalent to what you could go out. You can get them for like $1,000, for instance. And it's the equivalent of like, you know, what you could go out and spend 5, 10, 12 grand on. So they do the trick. And then, so, you know, you really want to get a good quality of bed. Then you also want to get a good quality of a pillow. You know, I find myself using a latex pillow and one side is firm and another side is soft. It's a good way to find out which works for you. But these are the tools. These are the tools that you get the sleep through, right? They're at the very, very top of even the top sleep quadrant, because these are the 4% of tools that you can use to increase your sleep efficiency by 64%, right? To use the 4% rule on it. So go and get them. If your room is small, still get a king. Make sure you got lots of room and really optimize that thing. Then what you want to do after you get these two instruments to increase your sleep is you want to block out your room completely, right? These are the type of blinds that I've got in my house, and they just completely block out all of the light. Like, I don't want any light coming in. I want this thing to be absolutely just completely pitch black. And that's it. Like, you don't need to worry about anything. And the reason that you do that is because having a completely dark room like increases like your mitochondria, and it's just like the darkness of your room is directly correlated to the quality of your sleep. And you might not own your house, you might be renting and you don't want to go and install the blinds. I'd still recommend getting them installed. And you can even take them with you if you want to. And that's just because like the alternative to that is to use something like this from Manta Sleep, which is like complete blackout, eye patches that you put on and you sleep. But for me personally, I don't like to have anything on my head when I'm sleeping. And hence why I would definitely go down for the blind option. However, if you don't really care, there's like $30 or $40 online, and you can go and get them, and then it's the equivalent. Like, it's going to be completely dark, right? Then once you've completely blacked out your room using blinds, if you don't choose to go down wearing these eye patches and you've kind of just blacked out the outside light, then what you want to do is you want to buy some of these from Amazon. And that is these Light Dims Blackout Edition. So there's these little like lights that you pull over anything that's an LED in your room. Like, there is to be no light, any little digital clock, all of that stuff, get rid of it. No light at all. You want to make your room as pitch black as possible. Me personally, I travel with these. So when I go stay in a hotel, like there's always like this smoke alarm, or there's like a digital clock, or there's something that like I can't unplug and that I can't block out. And when that's the case, I just have these and I block them out, because the sleep is just so important. Then once you've blacked out your room and it's completely dark, let's look at some supplements, right? So another thing that I've found great to really kind of get a much better sleep is by taking a magnesium supplement before bed. And all of these recommendations that I'm giving you, like, I have tried lots and lots and lots of things, but I'm giving you the things that I've tried that I've gotten the best outputs from. And I found that like from taking magnesium, which is a mineral that has like a wider range of effects in the body, ranging from like fighting inflammation, reducing stress, lowering the blood pressure, and also just relaxing your muscles and improving your sleep overall, that you typically want to find a brand that's a night formula, right? So the one that I take is a night blend, and this is the brand that I take. It's by Bioceuticals. However, you can take anything, but look for one that you can take before bed. And the ones that you can take before bed, they usually have something else in them, like sour cherry or something, that encourages more of a deep sleep. So just make sure that you're getting the sleep one and you're not taking the other one like in the morning, because that's gonna mess up all your productivity. And just note that I'm telling you what's worked for me, but I am absolutely in no way, shape or form a medical doctor. So please seek medical advice, before introducing this into your sleep routine. And full disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. You definitely want to go check that you can definitely have this before implementing it. And another great way to get magnesium and to get that hit is with an Epsom salt bath at night. So Epsom salt bath is another form of magnesium that can be absorbed through the skin while you're having a bath, and it's very relaxing and it gets soaked up. So that's another thing that you could find, baths, they can just really knock you out and give you a really deep sleep. So you might want to do, a bath a couple of nights a week to really help you. And looking beyond just the sleep, right? We all have what is called like a biological rhythm and a biological clock that affects the daily rhythm of many of our physiological processes. And this diagram shows the circadian rhythm, typical of someone who rises early in the morning, eats lunch around noon, and then sleeps at around 10 p.m. So you can see that, like, you know, that there's a whole rhythm to the body, and your circadian rhythm tends to be like synchronized with the sunrise and the sunset and other factors such as like ambient temperature and meal times and the stress and the exercise. They influence like the timing as well of that. And you know, it's incredibly important because your body is regulating, you know, and it's releasing chemicals based on what your biological rhythm is. So for instance, you know, on this where you say like, okay, cool, like, you know, at 2:30 is the best coordination, and then, you know, you have at 15:30 it's the fastest reaction time, and at, you know, 1700 hours it's the greatest cardiovascular efficiency and muscle strength, and then you've got the highest blood pressure and the highest body temperature. Melatonin secretion starts at around 9 o'clock, right? And then, you know, bowel movements suppressed. Then you've got midnight. And then you're at your deepest sleep at 2 a.m. And then the lowest body temperatures are at 4:30. And then 6 a.m. you rise. And then there's like a sharp rise in blood pressure. And then the melatonin secretion stops because you're awake. Then there might be like, you know, bowel movement. And then at 9 o'clock is the highest testosterone secretion in your blood, right? And then at 10 a.m. you have your high alertness. And there are all these little rhythms that you need to be aware of. And this is why it's incredibly important to have a set routine that you stick to every single day, because your body regulates your hormones and your biological chemistry according to this rhythm. And if you don't have a set structure, you're just confusing your body and you're sending it all these mixed signals, and really are far from being optimized, because there's all this stuff that's happening in your body and with your biochemistry that you're not aware of. And it's very important to not only have that set time that you wake up every day, but the set time that you go to bed every night. And it's something that you need to stick to 7 days a week. So it's not something that you can kind of like, I'll do this 5 days a week and then trick my body on the weekend, because it's just like, there's going to be lots of consequences as a result of doing that. Like, you're just going to feel really shit. And it's going to take a lot longer for you to get back into that same biorhythm that you've got. And that's why it's like, when you're used to waking up at 6 a.m. every morning, your body clock just wakes you up at that time. It's not just like by happening chance. It's like, it's all to do with your biological rhythms and the biochemistry and what takes place. So it's definitely extremely important to have a go to bed time and a wake up time every day, and set an alarm for both. So you just know it doesn't get distracted. You don't get caught in some Netflix freaking whirlwind and then you've watched a whole season and it's 11 p.m. at night. Another way to optimize sleep that I've found is through herbal teas. So chamomile is great, valerian root is great, and also lemon balm tea. And just looking at, okay, what are these teas that are going to do to kind of how they're going to affect my mood. And these are all things that you want to try and split test for yourself, right? Another really good sleep blend is Sleepy Time. There's Bedtimes, or there's Twining Sleep Tea. And they have like a combination typically of all of those other ones, like chamomile or licorice root or whatever it might be. So definitely try these. You'll find that a combination of the herbal tea and the magnesium really just like boom, like you'll have a really, really deep sleep. Another thing to test is I use a lot of essential oils to manipulate my mood. Lavender is a really great one, a calming and soothing property that can help reduce stress, and it also serves as like a great sleeping aid for you to fall asleep faster, or just to enhance like the overall quality of your sleep. What you can do is like, you can wash your bed sheets in it, or you can wash your towels in it, or even what I like to do is even just put a few drops, you know, underneath your pillow. If you're going to have an Epsom salt bath, is putting a few drops in your bath. But definitely having it like on your pillowcases or somewhere will really, really help. Another thing that I'm huge on is saunas, right? So I intensely sauna, and I've got a sauna in my house. And really what you want to do is, I find that, like, putting your body in like extreme things of heat and then going to extreme things of cold, it's found to basically awaken like the warrior genes in your body of time where you were going through like extreme heat and then like the ice age and all that kind of stuff. And if you look at like any life extension specialists, like the number one thing that they talk about is like pretty much cycling hot and cold through like a sauna or an ice bath or whatever it might be, and also time restricted feeding. Okay, they're the two things. And for me, like, there's all the benefits of like the sauna in terms of it like puts your body into a state of natural fever that also burn any viruses and all that kind of stuff off you. But it's also just very relaxing. Like after a sauna, you'll have a very deep sleep. So it's fantastic. I highly recommend that you find a gym that has a sauna, and definitely sauna, or just find a sauna house somewhere or get a sauna installed in your house, because the benefits are absolutely incredible. Now, once we've implemented all of these different elements, like anything that's important in life, it must be tracked. And understanding how well you sleep is really the first step to better sleep, because then you can know what works for you, and you can find out, where you're going to get the best input, and how many hours, what's the best time for you to go to bed, all that kind of stuff. And we do that by using this tool that's up on the screen right now, which is called Oura Ring. And this is a company, I believe they're out of Finland, and basically it's like very advanced sleep tracking and calorie tracking and all that kind of stuff, but their sleep technology is phenomenal. And basically it gives you daily feedback to improve your health and to better understand your body and your sleep cycle. So even it guides you through like an intelligent, data-driven plan to help you improve across the most important aspects of your well-being. So it tracks when you go to sleep, and it tracks when you wake up, and then it also suggests the best time for you to go to bed every night. So it will get all the data for like a month or for 2 months or however long you look at it, and it will be like based on like your heart rate and your body temperature and your respiratory rate, this is the best time for you to go to bed. And it takes a scientific approach to it. And it gives you a sleep score and an activity score and a readiness score. It's kind of like Google Analytics for your body. And you can interpret and engage with your data to experiment and then fine tune your performance, right? So it will give you like that readiness score, like 92. It will say, okay, cool, you got 8 hours of sleep. This is how many calories you burn, and this is what's really going on. And what I did through that, like you've got both the online portal, which I think is probably the best because it gives you really, really good data, and you can export it all as a CSV and you can track it all. It gives you like your REM sleep, your deep sleep, the efficiency, the restfulness, the latency, the timing, and your sleep score. And what you want to do is start to you want to get a base read and to use this tool and this ring for like a month, okay? Just from having like a go to bed time and a wake up time every day. And then you want to start introducing the herbal teas, the magnesiums, the saunaring, the lavender oil, the full blackout, all of that stuff, because then you'll see the data and then you'll believe what I'm saying, right? Right now, you might be thinking like, oh, this seems a little bit too over the top. Like, once you do it, and you see that it's not some crazy woo-woo rah-rah shit, and you like look at the data, you're like, holy shit, like where can I get the edge? What else can I implement to really get me the biggest gains? And the ones that I've recommended to you are the ones that I've personally tried, and I've seen like my readiness and my sleep score and how many nights of REM sleep I get and deep sleep per night just dramatically change from introducing this stuff. So you do it for a month and then introduce them one by one. And there might be some things that don't work very well from you, and you can choose to remove them if you want. And there'll be some things that really move the needle for you. And then like you might have like a sauna and then have like you might get like 6 hours of deep sleep and wake up feeling like a freaking Power Ranger in the morning, and then you're going to be like, okay, maybe it is worth like dropping the money and going and buying a sauna so I can have one every single day, right? So that's sleep. Now we'll move on to food. Okay. So really, like, the food you eat has an enormous impact on your productivity. And if you don't believe me, try eating a big bowl of pasta and then go work on some massive, huge, complex problem in your business that takes like a lot of brain power. Like, you'll be this lethargic zombie in a food coma. And like, I'm not going to pretend to be like a nutritionist or to like, be a naturopath, but like, my philosophy around food is extremely simple. Food has sustained us since the dawn of time. Like, nature is far more advanced than us humans. So basically, you want to imagine in the best case scenario that you could eat directly off the land. Like, i.e., go to the backyard of your house and pull out a carrot off the ground and eat it, right? And the further that you get away from that, the worse you are. And while I'm not telling you to kind of just grow all your own fruit and vegetables, what I am saying is that you want to basically be eating unprocessed, organic whole foods, i.e. real foods. And the further that you move away from eating those things, the worse off you are. And I think it's the most common sense thing out there. It's about eating whole foods, earth-grown nutrients, in great moderation, free-ranging organic meats, free from hormones, fresh organic fruits and vegetables, free from pesticides, chemicals, and in simple words, just kind of eating lots of living vegetables, dark leafy greens, and proteins. Right? Going to farmers markets and buying your food. That's going to be closer than going and buying it from like a mass chain supermarket that's got this huge kind of production line, and you just want to go straight to the source. And the further that you get away from that, the worse off. Like, you want to basically live the way that nature intended, because as you're finding over and over the course of a lot of time, as us humans are trying to better the nature, like, we just can't outdo this complex, sophisticated organism that is nature. So that's all that I'll say on the food component, right? Is you just want to be eating whole foods that are free from chemicals and pesticides and all that kind of stuff. No alcohol, no drugs. That shit is just straight up poison. It literally is poison for your mind and your body, right? It's as simple as that. There's one hack that I could give you that's going to give you more output than anything else, is just to stop drinking alcohol, and your effectiveness and your output and your efficiency will go through the fucking roof. Another thing that has worked really well for me is intermittent fasting. So basically, or time restricted feeding, whatever you want to call it. But basically, it's where, you essentially fast for 16 hours a day. So you skip breakfast, in other words. And starting with a fast in the morning allows me to get in a good 7 hours of work before I need to think about eating. I'll just have a black coffee in the morning, and the health benefits are incredible. And if you think about it, it's really common sense. Like, our digestive tract was designed for us. It's not going to be designed for us to be grazing and eating and snacking throughout the whole day, right? So you don't have to do it every day, but it's great to kind of throw in there. For me, I pretty much do it every day. And if you look at leading experts on life extension, it's saunaing, cold baths, and intermittent fasting. And if they boil it down to one thing, they say the number one thing that you can do to extend your life is just to skip breakfast and to fast for a 16-hour window. Right? So try it, give it a go, see how it works for you. 1 coffee per day, maximum 2, nothing past 11 a.m. because it messes with your sleep. Either straight up black or almond milk or something like that. That's the best way, right? And you don't want to go crazy on the coffee and smash coffees. You don't want to have anything past 11 a.m. because it does mess with your sleep cycle. Clean water, drink lots of clean, free from fluoride, 3 liters a day. This is a little bit of a hack because it forces you to get up from your desk every 45 minutes and go to the bathroom. So you're not efficient from just sitting down and just working for huge blocks of time. So if you drink 3 liters a day of water, you just force yourself to get up and go to the bathroom, and you have to get up and kind of shake it off and then get back to it. Exercise. So, for me, I've split tested doing it in the morning, doing it in the night, doing it at lunchtime. I found that every morning, there's no better way to start your day than with an exercise. I'm doing something rigorous. So get up before the sun, Whatever you like doing, whether it's weights, running, CrossFit, whatever it might be, a walk. I like to switch up my workouts. The only rule is that you must get your heart rate up and keep it up for at least 30 minutes, right? You must get a sweat from doing it. And it must be a rigorous workout. So no just long walks, that's not going to cut it. It must be very difficult. It must be very, very hard. And you want to do it 4 to 5 days per week. And by doing that, in the morning, your whole productivity and your energy levels are just through the roof. And there's something about getting a really hard workout in before the workday begins, because it's you've already tested your will and you've already done the hardest thing in your entire day in the morning, and you've just got it over and done with. So I highly recommend doing it in the morning. Even if you aren't a morning person, if you kind of change it, you'll find that your bio rhythms will change and it will start to work for you. Now let's look at the environment that it is that you are operating. Right? Your environment plays a huge role in your well-being and how productive you are. Your workspace needs to be somewhere that you feel really comfortable and really happy in, and a place that you enjoy working. So many people will go out and buy an expensive car, but they won't invest in a great office or a great workspace. And it makes zero sense when you think about it. You drive your car maybe an hour a day, and it depreciates like crazy from the moment that you get it. So really you get a negative ROI on buying a car. Where an office is somewhere that you would typically be spending 8 to 12 hours per day. And it makes a huge, huge difference on your productivity. And it can give you just probably one of the highest ROIs to something that you can really spend money on in terms of your working environment and your productivity and your output. So let's take a look at, what optimizing your workspace, what it looks like, and how do you create a really optimized workplace that allows you to do your best work. The first thing is that clutter is costly. It affects your physical and your mental health. You typically, if you have clutter in your life, you're constantly feeling scattered and you feel like you're drowning in your own tasks and you feel weighed down by this clutter. And having a messy workstation or an office or a house or an overstuffed cupboard or a drawer, and even stuff that's out of sight, whether you realize it or not, it's bogging you down mentally, and your peace of mind gets thrown out the window violently when you're drowning in clutter. But it's not just physical clutter. It's not just documents and pens and books and stuff everywhere. It's also digital clutter. And people have way too many apps that they don't use. Their inboxes are full with emails that they don't need actioning. And they're photos on their phone that can be deleted, or endless notes in a notepad or in a digital notepad, and just really a chaotic blizzard of noise, of just clutter. And you just want to get rid of all that stuff. And you must become focused on a priority. Priority is the foundation of solving the clutter, right, within your daily life, both physically and digitally. Because a priority is really, by definition, only one thing. And you can have other important things under that priority, but all of those things will inevitably be lesser and lesser important as you go down the list. So really, the clutter is detracting from the priority. So any clutter that you have in your life, whether it's clothes you don't wear in your cupboard, donate them to Goodwill, get rid of them. Any documents that you have that you don't need or are sitting messily in some drawer that's not filed professionally, get rid of it or file it. Okay? And same with your phone. Delete all the apps that you don't use, archive all the emails, get down to inbox 0. Remove any and all clutter. Okay? And then once you've removed all the clutter, this brings us to the second thing, which is you really want to think long and hard about, is this thing I'm going to add to my life essential, right? Because you've gotten rid of all the clutter, but there's going to be things that pop up that you want to add to your life, right? And you need to think of just really police it and think about it long and hard. Does this thing that I'm going to add? Is it essential, or is it just like some triviality and some novelty of adding it, but it has a negative second order consequences of me achieving my priority? And oftentimes it does. Like, people don't think of the cost of the clutter of adding another thing to their life. They just think of the benefits of that. But you do need to think about, is this essential? Because oftentimes it doesn't. It doesn't add any efficiency. Thirdly is you really want to remove something whenever you add something else. So whenever you add a piece of clothing, get rid of something else. Whenever you download an app, delete another app. Whenever you're choosing a new piece of software or SaaS or some kind of, program for your business, get rid of something else. Otherwise, it just adds complexity. It adds bloat. Whatever it is, whenever you add something, get into the habit of removing something else. And fourthly, you really want to be a minimalist who focuses on the important things and the essential things. Look at each thing that you add to the equation as adding dead weight that adds bloat and results in you moving slower towards your priority and towards your goals. And everything that you add to the equation is clutter. And clutter is costly. That's what you must remember. You can't just add things on there and think they don't have a cost to them. They have, grave consequences. And clutter is slowly but surely ruining the quality of your life, and you just need to eradicate it, and it will really free up your mind, and it will just make you feel so much lighter and that you can move so much quicker. Then the next thing is, your office and your workstation. And, I'm not saying like you're just going to have it like just some empty kind of asylum ward where there's nothing in it, right? Here is my whole office, right? So I'll show you my whole office and how it's set up, and then I'll show you my individual office that I work out of, right? So, you need to create a working environment that, one is free from clutter, but it also feels homely. And it's a place that people really love and enjoy coming to, and is almost nicer than their own home, or more homely than their own home. And as you can see here, there's like rugs, and there's like nice couches and little coffee tables and little areas to sit down and enjoy yourself. And there's lots of natural light coming into the office, and it's typically a place that you feel warm about and that you're really comfortable in. So, if it was just like only about removing clutter, like you wouldn't have masks on the wall, but it needs to aesthetically look pleasing, and it needs to feel like a place that you really enjoy being in. So like this is like all the elements. You can see we've got one big open plan office that everyone can kind of work together with. And then we've got breakout areas that people can also, work at and strategize in. And then we've got like downstairs, which is our breakout area, and there's lots of plants, lots of natural light coming in. Then there's bean bags, table tennis, again, very homely, right? And place that you'd feel comfortable on, because you need a great working environment in order to get great work done. And that doesn't stop just with you. You need to do that for your team. So they really like coming to work, and they feel proud of where they work, and that they're also going to be operating at efficient levels. And look at like all the light pouring in. Natural light is a huge one. Like we're like, human beings are like solar panels. We're literally charged from the sun. So you definitely want to have lots of light coming in. We've got this gong here, and that's to celebrate whenever we get a new client, we hit the gong. And everyone in the office kind of celebrates, and we take a moment to celebrate those quick wins. So we have like distinct work upstairs and then play and relaxation downstairs, right? So having these zones is also really important. And it allows people to really do their best work. Then like we have my own individual workspace, all right? Again, lots of natural light flowing in. There's artwork, there's plants, there's things that are aesthetically pleasing, and that in general make me feel happy and excited and motivated, okay? And the first things first is like, look at my office. Like, it is very clutter-free, right? I decluttered everything. And you can't skip that step. Like, do not leave shit laying around. Like, look at my workstation here where my computer is. And it's like a microphone and my computer and my keypad and a notepad. and my Bamback chair, which is really good chair because it's ergonomic. It's called a saddle chair, and that's it. There's not shit anywhere. Right? I can focus on the main thing, and no clutter is visually distracting me from what it is that I want to be doing. And I don't even have any drawers full of useless files and things. Like, it occupies mental RAM, and I don't want my mental RAM occupied by those things. Colors in the office are also very important. So you'll notice that there are like a lot of greens and browns, and we've used like wood earthy feels, like from both the furniture to the desk to even like the floating shelves on the wall. Like wood is like really kind of earthy and low wavelength colors. And that is a strategic move, and it's because they improve efficiency and focus and sound. So I have gotten my entire office soundproofed, right? I've got like ceiling panels on the roof, and you want to make sure that it's somewhere that it's quiet, that you can focus on. I've got soundproof, double glazed glass, and then I've got curtains also that I can close over the glass to make it even more blocked out. And I've used special acoustics, like a special acoustic glass throughout my whole office that is pretty much virtually soundproof. So it's like super zen. I can focus. I'm away from all the noise. I'm still with my team, right? I'm not in isolation. I'm in isolation while I'm working, but I'm still accessible when I need to be. And, as I said, I've also added curtains to reduce any echo. I've laid rugs down, as like these non-echo environments, they make you feel more comfortable and less anxious. I don't have any fluorescent lights, so no like white, cold, or blue lighting, because that shit messes with your circadian rhythm and it messes with your sleep. So the key is you really want to use warm lighting, and I have dimmers on every single light switch in my whole office. And obviously I got those installed, right? We built this whole office from scratch. Anyway, you'll notice as well that I have there's an orange light in the corner near the plant, and that's a Himalayan salt lamp. And these things are great. They're made from just huge pieces of Himalayan salt crystals, and basically combined with light inside, there's like a little lamp. These chunks of salt, they produce negative ions, which yield positive effects on the indoor air quality and the humidity. And placing a Himalayan salt lamp in your office creates a really great environment, because first of all, it's warm light. So it doesn't mess with your circadian rhythm. And then it also cleanses and deodorizes and purifies the air. It helps calm any allergies and reduce asthma. And it sharpens your concentration and performance, and just balances the electromagnetic radiation, right? It's a really, really good thing to have warm lighting. I have these all throughout my house. I've got them in my office. They're very, very good. The next thing is an app that you can install on your phone and on your computer. It's called Flux. The website is justgetflux.com. Depending on what operating system that you use, it's also built into your operating system where you can change it. You can change that, for instance, your screen, it adapts to the circadian rhythm of the sun. So as the sun's going down, your screen becomes warmer, because that white, cool light, it actually messes with your sleep. So you basically have your computer screen that's on the same schedule as the sun in your location where you're located at. And it's very, very great. You even kind of always want to have your screen a little bit more orange than it is blue light. So get Flux. It will help you. The other thing is to have plants. We've got tons and tons of plants in our office, and that's because, one, it purifies the air, but it's also it just makes you happier having greenery around. I've got greenery everywhere throughout my office, in my personal office, out on the floor, out in the breakout areas. There's just plants everywhere. And that's because it's this all around good air quality that makes you feel good, and it also mimics nature. And then the other thing that I really love is my diffuser, where you can put in essential oils, and this helps with your focus. So you can like put like grapefruit, or like I use like using pine needle oil, and it just like it makes your office smell really fresh. I've got ones for my personal office, and then I've got industrialized ones that we've got like a custom blend that we pump throughout the entire office, and then we've got like, you know, meeting rooms with persuasive ones for when clients come in, and all types of crazy stuff. Like I've taken this to the nth degree. I won't run into all the mechanics, but yeah, try one of these out, and I think that you'll find that you can get like a focus mix, or you'll find an essential oil that makes you feel really good, and it makes you really effective. Now, the next point that I want to talk about is focus. Now, in a world of constant distractions and things really just vying for your attention, a skill that is absolutely critical for you to build is the skill of building the muscle that allows you to focus. And you must become like the most stone cold, ruthless prioritizer in order to reach your goals. There's no way that you reach insane goals without being ruthlessly, you know, disciplined with how you police your time. And look, like having free time is never the default if you think about your life. Like people don't just fall into huge blocks of like free time, like, oh, like awesome, look at all this free time that I just happened to run into. Rather, free time is the result of strategy. And it's the result of looking at time differently and cutting out all the noise and really focusing on what matters. And that's what this whole module has really been about, is focusing on what really matters. And this requires constantly resisting the immense social pressure and what society wants you to do. And you just need to turn that stuff out and block out the noise. And here is a quote by Bruce Lee. The successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. Right? The successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. And the same is true in business. Like the just Terminator-like effective business builder is just the average entrepreneur with laser-like focus. And, you know, just gaining focus can be a difficult thing to do. You just say, oh, how do I focus? Like, let me just become better at focus. Like, where do you start? The best place to start is to focus by subtraction. Right? Kill all the busy work. Like I mentioned earlier in the King's Audit, eliminate all the shit that doesn't move the needle, and then move like all the stuff that is really important to the only thing that you do. Now, when most people think of focus, they think of, okay, I just need to get really laser focused on my goals. And while this is true, what does that actually mean? Like, what does it mean to get laser focused on your goals? And I've found that the best way to focus is typically through subtraction, and that is getting rid of any and all distractions like I've been going through. And the way that you identify this is by looking at your goal, your North Star of where you're trying to go, and then look at your self-invention worksheet and the person that you're trying to become, and then ask yourself, does this activity support me reaching my goal and becoming this person that I want to become? And if the answer is no, ruthlessly get rid of it. Even if you don't like it, even if you do like it, right? And it's the hardest to get rid of things that you really do like, but just eliminate it ruthlessly. Force yourself to focus, complete a task, or kill it. And it's as simple as that. And it's something that you need to constantly do. And you proactively need to remove potential distractions from your environment rather than depending on willpower. You need to do the King's Audit every month, every quarter, audit your time, see what is not serving you and what is not moving the needle for your business, and then ruthlessly eradicate it and get rid of it. It's as simple as that. And then once you've done that, you really must build moats. Right? Building moats, it really is like the real threat to our time is not the obvious distractions that we know are wrong. Like that we know, like social media, blah, 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 right? Rather, the real threats are the wolves in sheep's clothing, activities which make us feel like we're working hard, but don't ultimately move the needle, like checking emails, Mindless, shitty emails that don't move the needle at all. Like, you feel like you're busy and you're working hard, but they don't move the needle for your business. So the real challenge to, prioritization is really saying no and having the ability to say no. Because it's really easy to say yes and the social pressures build up for you to say yes. But what's hard is saying no to busy work that gives you the satisfaction of checking an item off your to-do list. And that's the thing that I see that people are plagued by in this whole hustle and grind, mentality of being an entrepreneur, is they get wrapped up in the satisfaction of like hustling and grinding through their to-do list, right? Meeting an obligation to somebody else, doing an easy task so that they can check it off their list. Having a meeting, sending like a Slack message, busy work, right? And it's not enough just to have a list of things to focus on. You must also have an avoid at all costs list. Okay? Like, have a list of things that you just must avoid at all cost that are poison to your productivity. i.e., what are the activities that you enjoy doing but don't contribute you to reaching your goals? Write them all down on a list and avoid them. You must build moats around yourself that don't allow for distraction to reach you. Willpower isn't enough. For me, I have a role in my company. There's someone that is called a professional fixer. And she is my PA/professional fixer that fixes any problems that arises. But she keeps the barbarians at the gate that demand my time. And everything that anybody ever wants to meet me about must go through her. That is a moat that I have built. Do not give people your phone number, right? Do not give them access to your calendar. Do not add unnecessary people on Facebook that you don't even know. These are just avenues for far more distractions to flow in. Nightmares, time vampires, as I call them. They just suck the life out of you, right? Have a moat that you build around that allows you to avoid them from coming and attacking you. Because the reality is that it takes a ton of energy and discipline not to do certain items on your avoid at all cost list. So if you are not deliberate, you will likely fall into just the old habits that you just typically are doing right now. So you need to build what I call stoppers into your day, into your week, into your month, and into your year, that you make sure that you're not working on minutia, and you must actively build moats around you as an individual within your organization that makes it very hard for distraction to get to you. Now, the power of elimination. I believe in minimalism and simplicity, right? Like getting rid of waste. I think that eliminating the inessential is one of the best ways to make life just a lot easier, to make good habits, to be more automatic, and to make you grateful of what it is that you do have, because it's essential. That said, getting rid of wasteful items and decisions is relatively easy. It's eliminating the things that you care about that you'll typically find difficult. So there's lots of shit in your life that you might not even like or not's really important to you, and it's easy for you to cross that out and not do it anymore. It's just a decision, right? But it's hard to prevent using your time on the things that it's easy to rationalize with yourself but have little payoff. So you rationalize that this is important because I enjoy doing it, or you try to rationalize and find reasons why it's important, but really when you look at it, they have little payoff. And the tasks that have the greatest likelihood of derailing your progress are the ones typically that you care about, but that aren't important really in you achieving your goals. So that's why I say that you need to be ruthless. It needs to be black and white, and it needs to just be run through the decision diamond of, does this support and help me to reach my goal? No, kill it. It's as simple as that. Every behavior that you have and every action has a cost. Even neutral behaviors that aren't really neutral, right? They take up time, they take up energy and space that could be put towards behaviors of you working on more important tasks. And we're often spinning in motion instead of taking action. We're just violently looking at attacking our to-do list rather than focusing on the thing that really matters. So really what I want to push upon you is just to keep things super simple. Minimize your life down to the essential. As we grow in our companies and in our lives, it's extremely easy to add layers of complexity. In fact, that's what is normal. Let me just add more. And as you get more profit and as you earn more money, it's normal to spend more and more. That's what typically people do. They just keep upgrading their lifestyle and acquiring more and more useless stuff. And what most people don't realize is that it all takes an enormous amount of effort to service these additional things in your life. The car, right? The holiday house. All of these layers that you add on, it takes time and it takes energy away from focusing it on the main thing. And what's truly powerful and unique is to keep things simple. That takes effort and that takes skill. And it gives you laser-like focus on what really matters. So before you ever add anything, ask yourself, is this essential or is it not? And if it is not, do not add it. And if you want to dive into this concept even deeper, go and get this book, Essentialism. It's great. I think you'll get a lot out of it. And the last thing that I really want to leave you with is focus is the true superpower. We all have the 24 hours in a day. Therefore, hustling harder to grow your business can only get you so far. That's why I'm stressing on this whole 4% of skills and inputs that give you 64% of the results in your life and in your business. Because these are the things that are going to serve you and allow you to get to the next level. And it's going to allow you to accomplish more in 1 year that it might take other people a decade to achieve. So by focusing on a few things that matter in your business, you get back the time in your personal life to be more healthy and to spend time with your loved ones or your kids or your pets or with yourself. And to get the full benefits of focus, you need to look at it as a difficult skill that is going to take years and years to practice to really develop and strengthen this muscle, because it does. It's not something that just happens in the flick of a switch. And focusing sounds simple, like just to focus more, but it requires a huge amount of emotional and cognitive resources to follow through on actually doing consistently. And this is why everyone talks about the power of focus, but very, very few people actually truly focus. So the resources for this module is like the King's audit, looking at the time allocation, also the job descriptions for the personal assistant and the private job, and then also looking at the power pyramid and looking at which are the areas in your life that you really need to focus on. All of those links are available in the resources section of this module. So the action items: download the King's audit worksheet and do that thing. Do it religiously, really get a really accurate account of where your time is going. Then make a list of all the business activities that you are doing every day in your business or every week or every month. Then eliminate, automate, and buy time. Okay? And one of the ways that you do that is by posting an ad for a chef, a cleaner, and a personal assistant. Get that done. Right? That thing is really, really going to move the needle for you. Then you want to optimize your personal power pyramid and look at the efficiencies and the optimization and the life hacks that you can make that's going to result in you getting more output. And then lastly is to cut out waste and keep things simple. Be an essentialist. Do not add bloat to your life. So they're the action items. Go ahead, get to work, and I will see you in the next video.